Okay, so you know that feeling, right? You got this big thing you need to do. Maybe it's finally clearing out that inbox, or I don't know, starting that report,
Mhm.
or maybe even learning something new you've wanted to tackle for ages. You really need to start, like genuinely. But then, well, you just don't. You get kind of stuck before you even begin. And then, oh, here comes that familiar feeling, right? Guilt, frustration, another day gone, zero progress. We've all been there. Let's be honest, it's pretty universal. So today we're going to dive deep into, well, defeating procrastination. And look, this isn't about making you feel bad. Not at all. It's about finding practical stuff that actually works. Our mission, for you listening, is to pull out the really key insights, the actionable bits from our source material, which today is excerpts from Defeating Procrastination. Small steps to great achievements. We want to turn those ideas into real strategies, tools for you to finally break through that inertia.
Yeah, and what's interesting is this source kicks things off by questioning something we often just accept, this whole idea of laziness.
Hmm.
It kind of lays the groundwork by hinting that maybe it's not quite what we think it is. It offers a pretty fresh take, actually, one that moves away from blaming our character and gives us more understanding, more control, really.
That is a radical thought, isn't it? Saying laziness isn't who you are, it's just something you do.
Yeah.
How does the source actually, unpack that for listeners who might feel like, nope, I'm definitely lazy?
Well, it's a really crucial distinction. The source explains why thinking differently helps so much. See, procrastination. It's not presented as some kind of character flaw or you lacking willpower. Instead, it's framed as our brain's natural defense, its way of protecting us from feeling overwhelmed. When a task just feels huge or daunting or like it's going to take way too much effort, our brain just naturally wants comfort, not challenge. It's like a built-in energy saver.
Ah, okay, like a default setting almost.
Exactly. So it's not really you being lazy, it's your brain doing what brains do when faced with something that feels like too much. And just reframing it like that from I am lazy to my brain is reacting in a predictable way, that immediately opens things up. It's just change is possible.
Wow, yeah. That really does shift things. If it's our brain trying to shield us from overload, not some deep character defect, then suddenly we can think about working with our brain, not just fighting against it. It changes how you look back on past struggles, doesn't it? Makes them seem less like personal failures.
Absolutely. And that understanding flows right into the core solution the source puts forward, which is the incredible power of breaking big goals down, way down, into really small, manageable steps. This approach directly tackles that brain aversion thing we were just talking about.
Okay.
Well, by taking something that feels overwhelming and just chopping it into tiny, almost insignificant pieces, you lower the perceived threat level, The task doesn't trigger that deep, ooh, I need comfort response nearly as strongly. It's a very direct way to just get moving, to overcome that initial sticking point.
Okay, let's make that real for you listening. Imagine the big goal is, say, writing a 20-page report. Just seeing write report on your to-do list can make your brain want to, like, run screaming, right? So the source says, break it down. Instead of that monster task, maybe it's step 1, open a blank document. Step 2, write the title. Step 3, draft 5 bullet points for the intro. Or maybe find one statistic. Tiny things.
Or learning a language. Instead of learn Spanish, maybe it's just review 5 flashcards. Or listen to 1 minute of a Spanish song.
Exactly. They seem almost laughably small, but suddenly the whole thing feels less terrifying.
And what's fascinating, psychologically, is that by making the task seem so minor, so insignificant, your brain doesn't register it as this massive energy drain or a big threat to its comfort zone, which makes starting that first action so much easier. You're essentially doing a little trick on your brain, bypassing that freeze response that overload often causes. It becomes about creating a string of easy wins, building momentum, instead of facing one giant, scary battle.
Okay, so we understand the why now, this brain reaction.
Okay.
What about the how? What practical tools does the source suggest? Because this is where it gets really interesting. Moving from the idea to like actual techniques, it mentions establishing consistent routines first.
Yes, routines are highlighted as really effective. The source points out their power beautifully. When you build a solid routine, you drastically cut down on something called decision fatigue. Think about it. If every single morning you have to decide whether you're going to exercise or not, that takes mental energy.
Right, the internal debate.
Exactly. But if exercise is just an automatic part of your morning routine, like brushing your teeth, you skip that whole debate, the action becomes less about summoning willpower in the moment and more about just following the script. That makes procrastination much less likely. You're basically wiring your brain to do the thing automatically.
And then building on that automation idea, the source brings up a specific technique, one I've actually found surprisingly powerful myself. It's called the 2-minute rule.
Ah, yes, the 2-minute rule.
Yeah.
Simple but effective.
So simple. The idea is if a task takes less than 2 minutes to complete, you just do it. Right then. Immediately. No hemming and hawing, no putting it on a list. Just act. It could be, watching that one cup by the sink, firing off a quick email reply, taking out the recycling, even just putting your shoes away instead of leaving them by the door. I actually tried this last week with my email inbox, just dealing with anything that took under 2 minutes first. And suddenly, like half the urgent stuff was gone. And it barely felt like I'd even started doing email. It really lowers that mental hurdle.
That's a perfect illustration. The real magic of the 2-minute rule is exactly that. It helps you leap over that critical first hurdle, the hurdle of starting. As we've been saying, often the biggest barrier is simply getting going. By committing to just 2 minutes, you make the task seem ridiculously easy, almost zero friction.
Yeah, 2 minutes is nothing.
Right. And what often happens is once you've started, you build a little momentum. You might find yourself thinking, oh, okay, I'm already doing this, might as well keep going. You get past the 2 minutes without even noticing. Or even if you do stop after 2 minutes, hey, you still did something. You get a little sense of accomplishment, a small win, which builds confidence. It's a very clever way to sort of nudge your brain into action, proving the task wasn't as bad as it seemed.
It really is clever. It's all about stacking those tiny wins, isn't it?
Yeah.
Changing the feeling around the tasks.
Yeah.
So for you listening right now, here's a challenge. What's one small thing, one thing you've been putting off that you could apply that 2-minute rule to, like today? Give it a thought. Seriously.
And this really brings us to a kind of core philosophy underpinning all these techniques. The source really synthesizes it well. It raises this important question. What's the guiding principle here? And the answer seems to be the importance of starting small, yes, but also celebrating any progress, no matter how tiny. And crucially, understanding that it's consistency, not striving for some impossible perfection, that leads to real, lasting change. It's about accepting that every step forward, even if it feels small or imperfect, is still progress. It still counts.
Oh, that's so key. It's like building muscle, right?
Yeah.
You don't get strong from one massive, perfect workout you do once every 2 months. You get stronger by showing up consistently, even if some days it's just a short workout. Those small, regular efforts add up over time.
Exactly.
Every little step you take, every time you use that 2-minute rule, every bit of routine you stick to, that's a win. And all those little wins, they chip away at the bigger goal. They add up. They're like tiny hammer taps on a big rock.
Yeah.
Eventually it breaks. You look back and realize you've actually climbed the mountain.
And there's a psychological payoff there, too, which the source touches on. Celebrating that progress. When you actually acknowledge, even just to yourself, hey, I did that small thing, it reinforces the positive behavior in your brain. It makes you slightly more likely to do it again tomorrow. You build this positive feedback loop. It's not about hitting some flawless home run every time. It's about sustained, deliberate effort, which, let's face it, is much more achievable and, frankly, sustainable for most of us in the long run.
Okay, so let's quickly recap the big takeaways from our deep dive for you today. First off, this idea that procrastination isn't really about being lazy in some fundamental character way. It's more of a habit, often stemming from our brain's natural reaction to feeling overwhelmed by big tasks.
Right. And the core solution is to work with that reaction, not against it.
About breaking those intimidating goals down into really small, manageable steps, making them feel less scary. Then we talked about practical tools, building consistent routines to automate things and reduce decision fatigue. And that super handy 2-minute rule, if it takes less than 2 minutes, just do it now. Great for simply getting started. Overcoming that initial inertia. And finally, the sort of guiding philosophy behind it all. Focus on consistency over perfection. Every little bit counts. Celebrate the small wins. That's what truly leads to significant, lasting change. These might sound like simple ideas, but honestly, they're really profound when you put them into practice. So we genuinely encourage you, listening right now, take these insights and try applying them, even in just one tiny way. Remember, big change rarely starts with some huge leap. It almost always starts with small, deliberate actions, repeatedly.
And maybe, as you think about all this from today's discussion, here's a final thought to ponder. We've talked about the power of just starting, using that 2-minute rule and how consistency builds up. So, what seemingly tiny, insignificant starter tasks, something you could commit to doing today, might actually unlock unexpected momentum. Momentum for a much bigger goal, maybe one that's been sitting dormant for a long time, personally or professionally. Just think about it. That tiny first step could be the key that opens a surprisingly big door.